Hey, you know, everybody's talking about the good old days, right?
Yeah.
Everybody, the good old days, the good old days.
Good old days.
Well, let's talk about the good old
Let's
days.
talk about them shits now. Hold up, baby. You know what I'm saying? Take you on this lyrical high real quick. 1993.
He drives a DeLorean. He's the best looking Asian man in streetwear. His name's Bobby Hundreds. Hello. I learned 5 things in 10 years. The first one I'm going to share with you guys is put up or shut up. Have something to say in all that you do. Communicate your story, communicate who you are and your brand in all aspects of your brand and business. In your cut and sew, in the size of the whale in your corduroy, the types of buttons that you choose, but they should all have your fingerprint on it and your opinion, because again, that speaks on who you are and what your brand, what you want your brand to represent. Sometimes the best way to identify who you are and what you stand for as a brand is by defining what you aren't. Our entire brand and legacy has been built on a response and fighting back and a reaction to what everything else is going on out there. Most of what we do is to respond to what's popular, to what streetwear says is cool, to what skateboarding says is right, to what we should be doing. And we look at that and we say, no, that's not how we want to do it. We're going to do it this way, and we're fighting back. And by doing that over and over again, we've carved out who we are in this culture and in this space. And when we first started standing on that stage with the Bob McKnights and the Bob Hurleys and the Bob whatevers, they were all old white guys with, in suits and all the other offspring of like all the awesome pro white skaters, and that was really cool. But I would stand up there and I'd be like, I don't look like any of these guys. I don't have their experiences, not just on race alone. I'm different. And why can't we carve out a space for ourselves? We didn't exist in this space. Why don't we make it ourselves? And we did that. We started to respond. And 10 years later, we get to stand here and say that there are stores that carry streetwear brands that are meant for everybody, that are meant for black kids who listen to punk rock and go to trash talk shows, and for white kids who listen to whatever, ska, and Asian kids and Persian kids who are looking for White Castle hamburgers. We did that. So respond to what's going on around you. This is the 3rd rule, 3 of the 5. That's my friend Jay. Many of you guys might know who he is, and if you don't, you definitely, hopefully have heard of him by now. He's a great cultural photographer in Los Angeles. Consistency. He said, Bobby, just be consistent in all that you do. I didn't just take that to mean in how to raise kids and how to be a loving husband, because consistency is not only what did that for him. Consistency also made Jay that great photographer. It developed his signature aesthetic and his style that people came to know him for. And it developed his brand under the Jay Bueno name. You can hit any date from now until July 27, 2003. You can see what I ate for lunch, who I hung out with, who I was inspired by, what we were working on. You can see all of that in the brand. And I did that every night. This is our logo and has become such an iconic mascot or a brand logo in streetwear. Adam Baum developed really simply. I was just drew him one night. I put him up on the blog. I asked people to give him a name. People submitted a name as a contest. And from there, we were like, all right, cool, he's Adam Baum. Let's just put him on a shirt. That was the first shirt he was ever on. It was called Adam Baum, or Adam Sweatshirt. That's Scotty. He's our sales director now, but at the time, he was a lawn gnome. I love Scotty. That Adam Baum ended up on that beanie, as you see there, and no one bought it. We sold maybe 5, 10, 11 of those hats and beanies. No one cared. And then we started putting it on hats. And then we were like, let's do a collaboration with Diamond and use it for a shirt. And we kept putting it on items, and we kept reminding people that he existed and that he was there and that he was indicative of who we were as a brand and that he represented our philosophy under the hundreds. Which if you look at Atom Bomb, he never explodes. That was the idea. For those first 10 years, that he just never exploded. He was just about to get there, but he never actually surfaced into the mainstream. That was always our goal. He ended up on more hats, and Garfield held him, and then we made toys, and then Olivia Munn wore him and was hot, and Ging was cool. And then he was on the top of Times Square, and then people put him on their body and did it on their necks and on their face. But that sort of consistency, what it was doing was it was breeding and fostering a familiarity and I guess a social contract between us and our customers, us and the stores that we sold to. What happens after time is that those people become your friend and they can really learn to trust you. Number 4, rule number 4. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. This is my favorite rule. Do you have an idea that you feel everyone else in the world should know about and adopt? There's nothing wrong with that. But greed is only effective when it's harnessed with discipline, and that it's tempered with a plan, and you have some sort of a game plan on how to execute that greed. I say every good brand and business comes down to 2 words: passion and patience. Passion and patience is going to be probably the name of your next streetwear brand, but it's also, it means everything for lasting in our game. And for us, it made sense for us to have passion for what we did, but be patient when the money came to us. Last lesson, I'm almost done, and it's be the best at being you. And this is my least favorite lesson of all 5, because it took us 10 years of trial and tribulation for me to really figure this out. 5 years of rapid growth and 5 years of stabilizing and trying to figure out how to run an efficient business, and it took 10 years for me to figure out what everyone is taught when they're young by their parents. They're taught as elementary school kids is be the best at being you. And it's true. You know, you guys are all here because you have passion for something and you have an idea and you want to share that with the world like what Ben and I did. And you believe in that idea. And that idea, you put it out there and it starts gaining some traction. And all of a sudden people are starting to talk about your idea. And then you're defining your own niche in an industry. You're carving out who you are and why you're different from everybody else. And it's starting to blow up. And all of a sudden you're winning, and all of a sudden you're victorious, and you're on the edge of the Titanic like Leo, and you're thrusting your crotch into the universe, and you're the king of the world, and you're the best at it, and you're awesome. And then one day you wake up, and you realize you have a real business with real business problems, and you realize that it's just a job, just like any other job. It's work. And that, you know, there's overhead. There are sales guys who have kids who need braces that depend on you to make money. So you make a lot of snapbacks because snapbacks are popular, and Chris Brown made a song about snapbacks. So snapbacks are back. So you make a ton of snapbacks because all stores told you that they wanted snapbacks, and you're like, okay, here's snapbacks. And then a year later, they're like, we ordered too many snapbacks. So can we cut down on snapbacks? And you're like, well, I made all these snapbacks, so now I lost a lot of money. And they're like, well, Tyler's wearing 5 panels now from Supreme. So can you make 5 panels? And you're like, okay, because I lost a lot of money making snapbacks, so I'm going to make Supreme 5 panels, but I'm going to call them camper caps, because that's not the same as 5 panel caps, and it's going to be different. And then one day you wake up and they're like, what about bucket hats? And you're like, what the fuck about bucket hats? Because I just gave you the snapbacks with with flowers on it. Not flowers. No more flowers, like faded flowers. And then you wake up and you realize that you lost your way. And you lost what you were doing, why you set out to do this in the first place with that idea. You had a voice, and now you're just retweeting everybody else. You had something to say, and now you lost that. You're lost in the crowd. You sound like everyone else out there. But as long as you stick to who you are, and you remember who you are, you're the best at being that. That's the most that you can do. Just don't forget that along the way. Thank you, guys.